Oh, everybody, and welcome back to Cursed Site. It has been a day, and yeah, let's just hop back into the game. We're gonna get the ending one and the true ending of the game now. And yeah, see how long we're still gonna take for ending one. Surprised it took this long. But the other one seemed to end faster. So let's see what ending one is about. That was all about like it's gonna be the start of a new life or something. I don't remember what I thought anyway. Now it's all about the king. Next morning I returned into the king's room. The dinner I left last night appeared to be untouched. Actually, wait. The king might have eaten one chip. Oh my good sir. I would have you know that I came second in a spot difference contest when I was 5. In my darkest hour, I too had considered starving myself, but that resolve only lasted until my tummy started to growl. I wanted to shake the king and tell him to snap out of it, but if I pushed too hard, he might end himself by banging his head against the wall he seemed to love so much. But instead, I said I would prepare meals personally for the king. West Harry might be a paradise compared to the East, but the food here seemed more suitable for bugs than people. In fact, some meals might make even roaches throw up. Sorry, bad image. The Eastarian temple had trained, or rather tormented me into becoming quite a cook. Not meaning to brag, but if I opened a restaurant in Westaria, I could be a well-ground master chef. At lunch I procurated Sunny, slow your speed down. You are slurring the words like crazy. Oh, whatever, let's keep it like this. Alright, at lunch, I put together a feast grand enough to make a glutton beg for mercy. It took me a dozen trips to carry all of my plates from the kitchen under the king's table. I had noted everything from the sardines' dimensions to the number of peas in that salad. The king should give up on trying to steal a single calamari without me knowing. When I returned to check on the food at sunset, the king lay in bed as always, but half the plates had been emptied. I guess there was no need for me to measure every dish with a rule after all. To get at the plates, the king spoke to me for the first time. You made all these? I nodded, and as the king turned to stare at the wall, he muttered, You have some talent. Well, he managed to stack the plates and walk out before cracking into a smile. I, the master chef, was labeled by the king himself. That quote would sit nicely on a plaque outside my restaurant. Several days later, Hadrian invited me over for tea. My husband regained his appetite as of late, the queen said. You might have saved our whole nation, guy. I raised the teacup over my flushed cheeks and pretended to take a sip. Often, a good meal is all someone needs. You're quite wise for someone this young. Might lose our head. I shook my head. Nothing compared to your age-old wisdom. Oh, you said something. You mean, your beauty and grace are matched, my queen. Adriana smiled, for her twitching brows were still debating whether to slice me open and treat everyone to a brand of red tea. Katie tried some red tea next, Adriana asked. I'll stick with Jasmine, thanks. I prefer. I think she can read minds or something. Or it was the ability of like the first sight once not this. As I presented another feast to the king that night, he sat up from his bed. His figure almost resembled that of a skeleton. So much weight had he been losing. Even Zulu could probably give him a piggyback ride in this state. Zulu's brother Guy, is that right? The king asked. I hit my head in acknowledgement. Hopefully my meals have been to your liking. The king slouched against the wall. Thank you for all of your efforts. In Eastaria, when I got through a day without Locke telling me to drown myself, I would steal some candy from the kitchen to celebrate. You count with no hands the total number of times Locke offered me thanks. Even in his depressed state, the West Towering King proved much kinder in every regard. Father, Griffith at least told me to this temple instead of the one in the east. Bumping into each other on the street might have been awkward, I suppose. I walked up to the window and opened the blinds just a little. It should allow sunlight to shine through in the morning, which I hope would brighten the king's mood. Might get rid of the dusty smell too. When I visited Zulu that night, she pulled me down by the shoulders and patted me on the head. But she had jumped into a time machine and turned into my older sister. Queenie Dwyane told me about how you've been taking care of the king. Zulu said, good brother. As it sounded like good boy. When Mion jumped off the cliff outside the forest, I'd thrown away my self-worth as a parting gift. The people in West Harvey had salvaged the remains and returned them to me. Several months, but finally my heart had accepted West Harvey as my new home. Then again, this was my birthplace to begin with. Perhaps the goddesses had planned for this all along. Still going. Following day is a good breakfast for the king. The smell almost lured me into devouring the plate. Another meal brought to you by your humble master chef. When I went to buy food in the village, I introduced myself to the shopkeepers as the king's personal cook. His 5-star ingredients handled by the best of the West, surely inspired the king to spring out of bed. Standing outside the king's room with breakfast in hand, I knocked on the door. No response. Strange. The king had been answering every knock from the past week or so. With his spirits on the rise, perhaps he had been getting better sleep. Let me leave breakfast on his table and make my way out. Open the door slowly to avoid making too much noise. A noose dangled from the high ceiling inside the room. The king had just finished slipping his head through the noose. I tossed my plate onto the carpet and rushed in to pull him down from the stool he was tiptoeing on. So he finally does it. You wasted enough time of us to decide to kill yourself, but alright. The king kicked at my face, causing me to stumble. My backside crashed into the egg and bacon I had just dropped. Help! Someone! Someone dashed into the room, followed by 2 more. We each grabbed one of the king's limbs and finally managed to drag him down onto the carpet. The king really did weigh about as much as a grocery bag. Buncombe tail reaching down his wrinkled pajamas, he looked more like a beggar than a royalty. Dwyane burst into the room and gasped upon seeing what had unfolded. He ran over to the king and kneeled beside him. Please, leave us. All of you. The 3 servants bowed before making the exit. Dwyane frowned at me and my shoulders slumped as I shuffled out as well. I fled to my nearest bathroom as if having an explosive case of number 2. Locking myself inside a cubicle, I sank on the toilet seat. Been tearing myself off bed early every morning to prepare meals for the king. In return, I thought Dwyane would see me as a family member. If that was the case, she would have dismissed me like a mere servant. What are you talking about? I'm not even gonna question it anymore. This boy is sometimes really stupid. No one here to embrace me as family. I had no right to call West Harvey my home. Hello, your sister? What? Again, what are you talking about? Dwyane and I were drowning in the sea, and Zulu might choose to save the queen before her brother. We did share a much longer relationship after all. The floor trembled, causing fragments of the cracked wall beside me to flake out. It's been a while since anyone last performed the ritual, but I still remember the sensation well. My knowledge, there was only one person left on this earth with the power to cast spells. I pointed straight for Zulu's room, pressing a hand along the wall for support along the way. Zulu rested on her knees in the middle of the room with bowls of fruits, water and incense placed in front of her. It looked exactly like those rituals Mion used to perform. Dwyane, kneeling beside Zulu, placed a hand on her shoulder. I should die 1,000 deaths of breaking our vow, but at this rate, I fear the king might not last. Are they actually trying to resurrect the dead child? I think it was a daughter, I'm not sure, but it's crazy. Dwyane had sworn to never abuse Zulu's power again, and for a while I actually trusted her. Might have better luck believing a shoestring could survive a scissor cut. The queen wheeled in to resurrect her daughter. Zulu began to sway, looking like a broken puppet forced to stay upright by its strings. Should have been the cure for Hitoyana to stop Zulu. Instead, the queen covered her mouth to refrain from giving the order. Hitoyana never saw me as family. I had no reason to hesitate when it came to protecting Zulu. I knew how to stop a ritual, as I had once involved me on spell by accidentally knocking some bananas over. Forgive me, my queen. I jumped in and kicked one of the bowls, causing the water inside to spill all over the carpet. The floor stopped shaking and Zulu collapsed on the floor so hard that she might have broken her nose. Left the tool into my arms, and when Hitoyana tried to reach in, I swung my hand to keep her away. You're just like the rest of them, using my sister like a tool. Hitoyana staggered against the wall with tears spraying her eyelids. Might be punished later for lashing out at the royalty. There are no way of taking those words back now. The king's scream echoed from his room. Hitoyana scrambled off to check up on him. Carried Zulu on her bed. She tried to rise, but her passed her back down. Leave it to your big brother, okay? After covering Zulu with a blanket, the two ran into the king's room. There she was, the king and queen's resurrected daughter. Either the girl's arm had always split off at the elbow into appendages, or she had me to thank for messing with Zulu's spells. It was, if she could even speak with those stitched up lips. What? Well, also this girl or thing, or whatever, didn't know how to talk, or if you could even call it speaking. Goddess, by breaking Zulu's ritual, I had invited this monster straight out of hell's pits. The demon reached for her father with those tentacles wriggling out of her elbow. With a shriek, the king threw his blanket at her, followed by slippers as well. Hitoyana, standing beside her husband, wheeled toward me with bulged eyes and convulsing lips. The queen had made plenty of scary faces when I questioned her age, but this time around, her expression was no joke. I had cursed the queen's daughter with a fate worse than death. She would have been better off staying dead than being chewed up by maggots under the earth. I devoted my life to serving Hitoyana, but a single action had erased all of my deeds. The queen's... Is it really wave or wrath? Is it meant to be there, but they poured from her eyes like poison leaking into the sea, since she wanted me not just dead, but muted into a demon like a daughter. Both my mind and heart screamed at me to run. I had planned to just flee the room, but the Malaks motored on until it was no longer the temple. When a roach sensed footsteps, it would crawl into hiding. I might be human, but before that, I was an animal. My heart urged me to turn back, and at least bid Zulu farewell, yet my legs refused to stop as they carried me across the village. Take care of yourself, sister, serving with such a useless sibling. Banished by my birthplace, I returned to the forest where I would live out the rest of my days. This time, I showed up alone, and no one would come for me either, unless Hitoyana really wanted to see me dead that badly. White Zulu would beg her to leave me be. Once the sun had descended, I hugged myself and remembered just how freezing this forest could become. Unable to walk any further, I sat under the dirt and planted my back against the tree trunk. I had no destination to speak of anyway. Damn it. I thought the king had snapped out of his slump. Did he put on a show to hide the fact he had hit rock bottom? Once again failed to see beneath the surface, and this time it cost me everything. The cold breeze made sleeping an impossible task. I tried to cover myself with fleece, but gave up after seeing how futile my effort was. It would be morning by the time I collected enough leaves to make a blanket. Trees scowled in the darkness around me. Without me by my side, the howls made me shake more than ever. I swore I heard the paw snapping the branches nearby. Tears rolled down my cheeks, and I covered my mouth to suppress the sobs. I had wolves possessed exceptional hearing. Being eaten alive, a beast had heard, but it was one way out at least. The next morning kicked off with me snatching a rabbit by its hind legs. Instead of breaking its neck right away, I took a stroll with its growing in my hand in a pitiful attempt to get free. I handled this rascal out of habit. Anyway, forcing its meat down my throat would only delay my inevitable demise. The rabbit curled in the ball and sank its teeth into my pinky. With a wince, I tried to shake the rabbit off, but of course now I would choose to cling on for dear life. So, wanted to play that way? Fine. Swung my arm and bashed the rabbit against the tree trunk. Ha! I learned today that bunnies knew how to scream. Threw my hand at the trunk to hear the shriek once more. The rabbit only cried faintly this time around. Smashed it again with all my might to sieve it with the elk louder. His body flinched as it banged into the tree. It let out no noise at all. After several more bashes, the rabbit ceased moving altogether, flung its carcass across the dirt as punishment for defying me. My heart ached as imagined how upset Mian would be if she saw me do such a thing. Footfalls sounded from behind me. There were no animal footsteps, I recognized the clanging of armor with each stomp. The Tyranno must have sent soldiers after me. Perhaps the Queen recognized a mistake and had called these guards out on a rescue mission? Must I gamble my life on someone who had already broken a vow once? Turning to West I would only make a fine example of natural selection. Dashed away from the footsteps, pausing once in a while to massage the calf's muscles that threatened to tear. Just as my vision started to blur from first, past the pond Zulu had discovered during a first day in this powerful forest. Okay, I have to speak slower, what the hell? Rather than writing it off as coincidence, I wanted to believe Zulu's prayer led me here. Spared a minute to take many sips of water as I could. The liquid made me feel bloated when I resumed my run. But it beat dying of thirst. By sunset I glimpsed the lantern's light of East Tower in the distance. Melody Way was enemy territory to my pursuers, so it should make a great hiding spot. As for Locke, I doubted that he would hold a banquet to celebrate my return. It was I who had cut Mian loose from his strings after all. My neck and head must separate either way. I would rather have the divorce take place in East Area, so Mian's spirit had returned home after death. In that case, she would at least know my life ended. Escaped from the forest and stepped foot onto the familiar pavement of Melody Way. Snow fell from the sky under my shoulders and hair, making my teeth chatter from the cold. Being back in Melody Way reminded me of that festival evening I had spent with Mian and Sasa. That was the first night Mian ever called me by name. I would have shed a tear from nostalgia, but seeing my own wanted post on the wall spoiled the mood quite a bit. Melody Way seemed to have far less shops than I recalled. Either shopkeepers had bigger issues to worry about, or had been killed by stray spears and goddess knew what else. This place used to be so noisy with all the stall owners shouting for attention. Nothing but the rustling of leaves now. I actually kind of miss those people. It might just be my imagination, but I swore the street reeked of blood. It almost tasted in my mouth as if I was the one bleeding. In fact, I traced a finger over my lips just to make sure. I only spotted 3 people on the street at this hour. They shot me a suspicious look, no doubt because the West Tower in attire. I lowered my head and stayed away from the lanterns to keep my face shadowed. Hey! A voice called from behind. When I tried to run, the person seized me by the wrist. Fire, cool world. Looked over my shoulder and met a familiar face. The one holding me was a servant I grew up with in East Tavia. Guy, is that you? He asked. I put a finger and he lowered his voice. God, it's your lips all cracked. Servant pulled out a water bottle from one of his grocery bags, snatched it from him and put the liquid down my throat. With a frown, the servant took his bottle back. Never imagined you'd return, heck. Nobody even knew if you were alive. Mian's got to know about this. Squeezed the servant by his arms. Mian's alive? Those three villagers around us started to stare. Let go of the servant to avoid drawing more attention. Please, you must take me to her. The servant shook his head. Have you seen these wanted posters? If we go back into the temple, you never get out alive. It will be the last thing I do, I beg you. The servant avoided my eyes, but I fixed my gaze as if trying to burn a hole through his skull. Eventually sighed. This is a big mistake. The servant trotted toward the temple. I tailed him in an attempt to look less out of place. I stared at the servant's neck to avoid making eye contact with the townsfolk. Darkness on my side, I made it back to the temple without alerting any guards. The servant a pat on the shoulder. Let him go in alone from here. Already troubled you enough. The servant held my hand for just a moment. You always be one of us, Guy. Speak for all the slaves here. I whispered thank you and watched as the servant stowed away. Once it disappeared in the dining room, I snuck off in the opposite direction, poked my head out to check my surroundings before rounding each corner. The guard sat in the corridor that led to Mion's room. That lock never gave him the key to bring out the chair he was sitting on. The guard had skipped nodding in an attempt to stay awake. I wished I could shove a bottle of sleeping pills down his throat. Cursing under my breath, I snuck into the dressing room and changed into an East Tarvian servant's attire, dumped my West Tarvian clothes on the carpet. Once a guard walked in here, he would know someone had invaded the temple. Fine by me, I only came to see Mion's face one last time, anyway. When I stepped out, I noticed the guard sitting outside had fallen asleep, changing him with guys for nothing then. The tiptoed past, I resisted the urge to pee on his head. What the fuck? I arrived outside Mion's room. Guards patrolling the area. I had no time to brace myself for the reunion. I pulled the doors open as quietly as I could and stepped inside. Mion laid on the floor wrapped in a blanket. I wanted to hold her so badly that I almost forgot to close the doors behind me. Shutting the doors, I kneeled on the carpet and looped my arms around Mion. I should have shaken her awake first, but I could wait no longer. She woke up and screamed from shock. The guards would march in and drag me straight to the guillotine. Mion never made a noise. In fact, she stayed so motionless that I thought I might have picked up a doll by mistake. I lowered Mion back on the bed, and still she remained frozen. How foolish of me to have assumed Mion would leap into my arms. Jumping off the cliff for her to still have all of her limbs should have already been seen as a miracle. I wondered how long it had been since she last moved the muscle. God, alive, Mion murmured, eyes watering upon hearing her familiar yet broken voice. When I pulled out Mion's hand from under the blanket, I noticed the purple blotches that riddled her skin. What kind of poison had I been feeding her? Mion's pinky started to twitch, gave her a gentle squeeze, hoping to lend her my strength. That single finger was all she could move. Kin Orse Ri. Mion's voice grew fainter with each word she uttered. Put a finger over her lips so she could save her energy. Let me search the room for my own clues. Ready to flip enough every door like an undergarment thief, but I found my answer almost right away. A tipped over bowl of fruit sat in a corner. Should have worked it out just from the reek of incense in this room. Block. What will it take for you to spare Mion from performing these rituals? Death might be her only escape. No, even if she died, the king might dig a herb to see if he could poke one more spell out of her. Picked a pair of the flowing fruit against the wall. Splattering noise might have altered nearby guards, and by sunrise it would be my brain's turn go to splat. God. Kill. I turned to Mion's side and leaned down to face her better. Kill me. Shook my head before kissing me on the lips to shut her up. Could even feel my tears dripping onto her cheeks anymore. Breaking Zulu's spell I had already helped gave birth to a demon. Was another sin upon me. The goddesses would drag me behind straight into hell. After giving Mion one more kiss, I got up to leave. If I ran now, I might have a slim chance of escaping. About as likely as an elephant fitting through a water hose. Guy, please, kill me. First full phrase Mion had spoken. She could have used that energy to say how much she missed me instead. Perhaps she'd been saving this request for my return. Once I left, I doubted she would beg for death from anyone else. Still had no clue how the splotches on Mion's hand came about. Doc must be shoving all kinds of drugs down her throat just to keep her alive. For Mion, death might be her only ticket to freedom. No way would I allow Mion to die alone. Once I abandoned my humanity to end her life, I would march into Locke's throne and pierce his throat with a pair of scissors, better late than never. I yanked Mion's pillow out from underneath her. A muffled whimper shredded my conscience as I smothered her with the pillow. If paralyzed, even if she changed her mind, she would have no way of fighting me off now. Tears streamed down my cheeks and strained the pillow below. I pressed my palm against Mion's face to resist from chickening out halfway. Goddesses, please let Mion live. A new life is an ordinary girl. A pair of hands wrapped me up by the armpits from behind. I turned to see the face of the two guards responsible. Let go of me! I hurled the pillow at the guards, but it flew right in between their ears. Landing a hit would have at least saved my self-esteem. Not that such a thing meant much at this point. I stretched a hand toward Mion and cried out her name, but she never responded. At least let me confirm she had stopped breathing before he fit my neck through a noose. Me and the rest, Locke, the one who deserved 100 deaths, would survive after all. For God's sake, let me take the king down to hell with me in exchange, but let the guards hang me twice. If I had managed to kill Mion, I would be seeing her again soon. My execution loomed as mild at the thought of Mion waiting on the other side. Ending 1. Final path is opened. So, ending number 1 might be the worst ending. I'm still thinking about ending number 3. The ending 2, like the Mion and me meeting the queen, was the good ending together with, was it with Zulu? I don't remember. No, it was just us two, right? I don't know. And the third ending was we're going back to the king, which was absolute of a bullshit idea. We would have never done that. And he won the war and shit. But I don't really remember the ending too well, but I feel like Info Mion was... Mion lost all feelings for us. She was just like really depressed. And yeah, we fucked it up. But in the ending number 1, I mean, she never... The main difference is she never stopped loving us in ending number 1, but she got abused for like all this time we were gone. She got paralyzed and she was still forced to do her rituals, so... yeah. Well, I hope the true ending is gonna be the least tragic out of all of these. So let's load into this. Hear those one last time. Mion turned toward me. Let me hear your thoughts, guy. Big death, go back free, Mion. No matter how hard I tried, I still kept failing to save those I cared about most. Even when I managed to pull them from death's grasp, I could see lonely watch as despair tainted their hearts. Darkness closed in from every direction, threatening to consume me. The freezing air felt like ants crawling against my flesh. Black claws stretched in my direction, beckoning me into the abyss. Would my friends be waiting for me down there? If so, maybe I should let these dark figures take me into the domain, just as I was ready to surrender. A pair of human hands reached in from behind and gave my cheeks a gentle pinch. I spun around to meet the face I'd missed for so long. Only you can be Mion's night, guy, stop making her wait. Sasa. As soon as Sasa appeared, I sensed a chill being pushed away by her warmth. A breeze caressed my skin and vaporized the dark clouds that were on the verge of engulfing me. Yeah, I remember now, she died. Did the other guy? Yeah, the other guy definitely died as well. He taught me to live freely, brother. Why would he doubt himself at a time like this? Yeah, if you're Zulu's brother, start acting like it. Zulu. Neek. I left the world without any regret, Sasa said. She must be talking about her decision to stay in Melody Way when the war started. Perfect endings only exist in fairy tales. There's no need to fear death. Zulu covered her mouth to hide a chuckle. Well, to be honest, being remembered once in a while would be nice too. Once in a while? Never allowed the day to pass without thinking about this free? Well, maybe a second or third day for Nick. Blinking with tears, I reached out to embrace Zulu, but my hands passed right through her. Nick laughed at me, stopping only when Zulu stepped on his foot. Mion had really been a bad influence on my sister. This is no place for you yet, Sasa said. You better head back. Mion's proud of you, guy. It's time you had faith in yourself too. So, which will it be? Triana's voice snapped me from my trance. You and Mion are free to return home, or fake your deaths, and remain here so this war can end. Mion turned to me and locked my fingers between hers. Firmgrip told me she'd already made up her mind. Sasa and the others must have sent her a vision as well. This time, Mion wanted not my answer, but rather my consent. I gave Mion's hand a squeeze to let her know that whatever plan she had in mind, I would be here to help her carry it out. After exchanging nods, we turned to face Adriana. I will remain in neither the east nor the west, Mion said. Adriana tilted her head, looking puzzled. My queen, you've treated us with the kindness of a grandmother, I said. The corner of Adriana's lips twitched. Sister, the kindness of a sister. Yes, a sister, I corrected. And now there's one last favor we'd like to ask of you. The week of rushed planning the day it arrived. Normally an event like this should have taken almost a year to prepare, but with the war still going on, we had no such luxury. Never before had my heart thumped his heart, not even back when I was sold to his Tavi as a child. No need to mind me, though, since Mion was the only one who mattered today. I could dance around the temple naked if it would make her feel more like a goddess. She's ready, guy. Oh my, she looks gorgeous. Adriana's voice came from inside the room. After slapping my chest to try and calm my heartbeat, I slid the doors open. Are we marrying? We're probably marrying, aren't we? Mion stood beside Adriana wearing a Westavian dress that draped under the carpet. Flower-patterned fabric gleamed under the sunlight. I'd never seen a material quite like it. Mion had exchanged her veil for a Westavian version as well. The flowers on her head reminded me of Zulu. I hoped she was watching over us. Being a servant, I'd always cast early looks at beauty bought with gold, jewelries, designer dresses, you name it. I had vowed to never fall for such superficial tricks, but just for that day, I'd make an exception. Joanna told me she'd worn a similar dress on her wedding day. Sorry, my queen, but I doubt it looked anywhere near as perfect as Mion did right now. Mion moved her head up and down to her at my suit. Never before had I worn anything so well ironed. Doing up the top bun made it hard to breathe, but one of the female servants insisted I kept it that way. I wished you would wear this every day, Mion said, her cheeks flushing a little. Wanted so badly to pick her up right now and run with her toward the horizon or something. Wow, when had it become this corny? We first made our way to Zulu and Nick's graves. After dropping on our knees, we bowed to the tombstones. Zulu, for a long time, I really wished you never told me you were my sister. But now, I want you to know I'm so glad we got to meet again. Turn to face Nick's grave next. You'd better look after my sister, otherwise I'll come down there and get you good. After rising to my feet, I offered Mion a hand up. She took my hand and we made our way to the main hall. Adriana trailed behind us, and while I could never do enough to repay her, today she might as well be invisible to me. My eyes could only see Mion. His formal shoes I had on felt too solid for my liking. Better get ready for some blisters tonight. For now, though, I was too obsessed with admiring Mion's glossy hair to care. The second we entered the main hall, Mion's mouth opened. That alone made all the preparations worthwhile. She must have already seen what was on the table on the far side. A pair of rings, ready to be exchanged. I had told Adriana anything would do, but she insisted on rings adorned with gold flowers. For that deed, I vowed I would be the Green Servant for Light. That might be enough to pay one of those two wings. Mion and I walked along the red carpet. The servants and guards gathered in the hall applauded for us. I knew they came only because Hituano ordered them to, but with no friends or relatives to speak of, I still appreciated the presence. A band of musicians stood in the corner ready to perform, but for now, Mion and I kneeled before the table with our two wings. Sasa, I wish you could be here. You brought me and Mion together. Nobody could ever take that away. Mion and I barely got a chance to know our parents, so to us, Sasa might as well be our mother. She showed us more patience than we deserved, always holding back tears in secret just to keep us happy. We had stumbled our way into becoming grown-ups, Sasa. There was no need to hold back anymore. We always teased us little about getting together when we were kids. It was very bad that it took so long. Brenda picked up a ring from the table and handed it to me. He looked at always saying Mion was the most important person in our nation. Do I really deserve this? Mion lifted her head to face me. Hi, lots of people I don't know. I recalled Mion saying those same words at the Lantern Festival when we were little. How could I forget? It's the first time she ever spoke my name. Thinking back, without her, long ago would have fallen into Gala Samba. Snap out of it, guy. No sense in making her worry forever. It's okay. You know me. Slipped the ring from Mion's finger. At last, I could keep it to myself like I'd always wanted. But when I next passed the ring to Mion, as I raised my arm, the Green said, maybe the other hand would be better. Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot that he lost his arm in that version. Ooh. Wait. That was the version. Was that the... Yeah, that was the version where we lost our arm, right? Wait, what happened? We stopped hiding, right? We got taken home and then we escaped again. I made it to like Vestavia. Alright, yeah. Good. Yeah, fair enough. The arm I'd put up no longer had a hand attached to it, so slipping on that ring would be kind of hard. The blushing switched hands, some of the audience chuckled. A bit mean, but oh well, nothing could bring me down one morning like this. Mion's hands trembled at first, but she managed to slip on my ring. The crowd clapped, most of them with little to no enthusiasm. Considering they had no idea who we were, this would have to suffice. Once the audience settled, those musicians in the corner stepped forward in the spotlight. One even went out of her way to hire this band for our sake, so I would always remember kindness. One by one, the band members chimed in with the instruments to produce a melody. Mion accepted my hand and led her onto the dance floor. Mion and I only had yesterday to practice our dance. Well, the training was mainly for me. During our days in East Tavia, Mion and Sasa danced for fun, plenty of times. When Mion and I were training, our difference in experience really showed. Each time I snapped on her foot, she would forcefully position me back into place. Today, however, it was Mion who kept stepping on me, fingers trembled on my shoulder, and I grasped her hand tightly to calm her. Sasa did always say the boy should take initiative. It took 10 years, but today, I hope to do exactly that. During practice, Mion said I danced like a tree. No way would I let her call me that today. Exaggerated by hip swing so much that it made Mion chuckle. Sasa gone, I took pride in being the only one who could make her laugh like this. Mion's lips suddenly quivered. The sight of her wanting to cry almost made my heart stop. Thoughts about the future must have been haunting her. What would soon come made me want to weep as well, but for now, I pressed my lips over Mion's to try and cast her fears away. The guards and servants probably just wanted us to finish so they could resume their duties. Those musicians only came here to be paid too. Fine by me. I knew the people we cared about must also be watching, wherever they happen to be now. Sasa, if we could have you perform for us today, that would have been perfect. I didn't dare not to ask for more. Things are already perfect, guy. Today's about you too, Sasa said. I have nothing to do with it. You have everything to do with it, Sasa. Zulu, I pushed you to have confidence, yet you failed to set an example. You had a much bigger heart than mine. I'm proud of you, brother. For what you've been through, you deserve this and so much more. And Nick, you'd better become a man worthy of looking after Zulu. What? You got some sort of sister complex? I'll make Zulu smile more than you ever could. Still annoying as ever, this Nick, but at least he no longer relied on using that fake manly voice of his. The music started to fade, but then picked up again. Noticed Titiana raising a hand, ordering the band to extend the performance. Just how I would do just fine with such an understanding queen. Let me spin under my raised hand, venting as we went. Titiana had done all he could for us, and I too wished this moment could have lasted forever, but in the end, time always came out on top. I don't need to save anymore, do I? Let's just finish this. Mion and I made our way back into the forest at sunset. Got out of the sidemass. Carried a basket of fruit in my arms, leaving the incense for Mion to bring. Mion also carried an empty bowl, which we used to scoop water from a nearby pond. When Mion said she wanted to come out in the forest, I thought her spells might be more effective here. She strained things out and told me she merely wanted to see the sunset. Fine with me. Today I would jump in the lion's mouth if she asked. I could smell the seawater as Mion and I approached the cliff edge. Ravens croaked inside the trees overhead as if to say farewell. Once we walked past the maze of trees, nature greeted us with a warm and gentle breeze. As I lined up our offerings by the cliff edge, Mion inspected them and gave me the nod. I'm pretty okay at this. Yeah, well, I've only been doing it for 10 years. Mion lowered on her knees before what? Mion lowered onto her knees before the bowls and incense. I have no power to cast a miracle. Once I'm done, it will all come down to King Locke's resolve. Precisely why I'm doubtful as hell. To tell her the truth. In fact, I wish I could kick the fruit basket off the cliff edge and call off this whole ritual. Sansa did always say the king used to have a kind heart, Mion said. Guess you're going to find out. Now that Mion and I had exchanged wings, I must devote myself to all that she believed in. Forced myself to give a shaky nod. Mion patted me on the head. No crying, okay? Just had the best day of my life. I nodded again, this time with more resolve. With a satisfied smile, Mion began to chant. Happening. You have rumbled far more than usual, no doubt because Mion was trying to communicate with the dead. Good thing I kept a fair distance from the cliff edge, I might have stumbled off. Sweat came pouring down from under Mion's veil, her lips paled, followed by her cheeks. The most draining ritual yet, and also the longest. Combination that would end her life, as she had predicted. Should have talked her out of this calling the dead thing as soon as she had the idea left her mouth. Struggling to regain my balance, I reached for the bowl of water, hoping to knock it over and end the spell. Guy! Beyond a single word caused me to freeze. I sank onto all fours and clawed at the dirt under my palm. Stupid Mion, making me watch as a life withered like an unwanted flower. I'm tired of having blood on my hands. Whether it's King Locke's or anybody else's, Mion said. Sasa, Zulu, and Nick will keep me company. What? I might just swell up and being eaten by maggots. Nobody knew what waited after death, not even Mion. I knew she only said those words to comfort me. Mion continued to speak, but her voice had fallen into a whisper. I held her close in my arms so I could hear what she had to say. As long as I live, my spells will be used to hurt others, Mion said. Cursed sight. Should have ended it a long time ago. My powers have no place in this world. Could pass this curse on to someone else. Maybe I would have. A horrible thought, right? Unsure of what they say, I only managed to shake my head. Guy, stop being down on yourself, okay? Mion's body grew colder and colder. Tears welled in my eyes, but I refused to let a single drop fall. I promised Mion I would not weep. Even now, Mion worried for me more than she cared about herself. She might have the cursed sight, but she also had the biggest heart of them all. Those goddesses had better let her join the ranks. I would never pray to them again. Find someone else you'd be happy with, Mion said. Your life has barely started. As I offered no response, Mion squeezed my hand with that little strength she'd left. Guy, promise me. Alright, it's a deal. I could never promise that, not even if I want to. I cannot love anyone like I did love her. There's no way. And so, even in this final moment, I told Mion a lie. No way would I allow anyone to replace her. She probably knew I was lying as well, but she never protested. She'd already breathed her last. The ground ceased trembling, and I prayed the ritual would succeed. You'd better snap out of it, Locke. I would end you myself and make you apologize to Mion in the afterlife. How she even afforded you this kindness was beyond me. I picked up Mion's body and waded back toward Vestaria, for I wanted to claim I carried her like a knight would carry a princess. In truth, her weight caused me to sway as I staggered along. But when I did offer to send some guards along as escorts, I insisted on being the one to take Mion back. At least, we never ventured deeply inside the forest, or my arms might have broken off before hitting the halfway mark. Mion had told me to be strong even without her, and I vowed to do exactly that. I would give her no reason to worry about me one bit. Otherwise, she might throw an apple at me from up in the heavens. But, before any of that, I put down Mion's body, collapsed in the dirt, and bawled one last time in her name. King Locke has pulled back his troops, Idriana said. Looks like Mion's done it. Despite hearing the news, I found myself unable to smile or throw my arms up in joy. Both the east and the west could get tossed into the sun for all I cared. I only wanted Mion back by my side. She would no doubt chide me for thinking so selfishly. Mion gave her life to summon the Locke family into his vision. Well, he might pass it off as a dream. Perhaps the king still had some heart in him, after all. Hopefully the spirits of his parents gave him my goods back and told him to toughen the hell up. King Locke has begun asking his citizens for advice and support, Idriana said. Our relationship with the East remains unstable, but as the seasons pass, hopefully that can change. Time had robbed so much from me, yet it also allowed just any kind of wound to heal. Maybe someday I could travel between the East and the West without having to worry about getting skewered by a spear. Heck, even the king managed to see the light. To be fair though, Mion's death must have also spurred him to give up on this war. I doubted I would return to the East and see Locke handing flowers to grannies. Sorry, Mion, you forfeited your life to save Locke, but I would have never been able to forgive him. I could kick him into the afterlife and bring Mion back in exchange. I would do so without hesitation. Mion may be from the East, but will always remember her deeds, Idriana said. Vestaria shall build a statue outside the temple in her name. I nodded out of respect, but to me, a statue carved by someone else meant nothing. With my own hands, I'll make sure Mion lived on forever. Dad, please slow down. My phone's batteries are running out. These things have been buried for God knows how many years. Not like they suddenly disappear on us. Junior, did you not see those stone tablets you found earlier? There's gotta be more clues nearby. My name will be in the history books. Yours? But what about mine? Yes, and maybe yours too. Just keep up, kid. This sucks. Peter home catching up on the reality TV marathon. Hey Junior, get over here and check out what I found. Wow, I have to say, never expected to really find it. This wall painting off, Mian? Oh, it was a boy. You doubted me, boy? This engravings must be thousands of years old. Looks like they're telling some kind of story. At least they figured out that much. With this we can uncover the history of these people. Looks like they were worshipping a goddess of some sort. Meh. People sure were superstitious back then. Doubt this goddess of theirs even existed. Enough blabbering, kid. Let's go to work. Light beamed down from the heavens, paving the world wide. In the distance, I heard a rhythmic echo, dissembled water splashing against the shore. My shoes hovered several inches above the ground, or at least I thought so. Gazed down and saw no floor at all. Under normal circumstances, I might have panicked, but the warmth of this wide world had washed away all of my worries. People did often claim there was nothing more peaceful than the afterlife. I always thought they were hoaxes, but if so, still made a pretty good guess. Zulu stood in front of me with her back turned. She must have been wondering her quite a while. Let me go and say hello. Oh. This is Mion's POV? Oops. I tried to sneak behind Zulu so I could give her a surprise stretch on her cheeks. But she spun around just as I was reaching her face. Her mouth fell open when our eyes met. Mistress Mion! Holding my arms. With the mistress stuff again? Zulu let out a giggle. I forgot, Mion. Oh, I'm happy to see you. But you showed up here. Found you soon. Silly girl. I rubbed Zulu's face to cheer up. There's no need to feel sorry for me. I came here by choice. But I had. He called it. Zulu returned by his side. Our gazes met for a moment. We exchanged nods. Take good care of Zulu, I called out to him. He's one of my dearest friends. You have my golden promise, Nick said. At least he had stopped putting on the cool face that anyone could tell was uncool. Well, all but one person. A particular guy I knew used to always fall for Nick's act. Whatever. Bowing at me, Zulu stood up to Nick. She gave me one last wave before going home into the distant light. I had bells ringing in my rear. A pair of slender arms coiled around my shoulders from behind. Even without hearing the bells, I could always recognize the warmth of this touch. Damn, that's getting so sad. Sasa, Sasa, Sasa. I twirled around and threw my arms around her. Sasa chuckled as I sobbed and rubbed my face against her chest. My head gone, she could finally pat me on the head. It felt so nice that I might consider living my next life as a cat. Once my tears stopped flowing, I pulled my head back just far enough to speak. Sasa, I love you so much. I wish I told you every day. Sasa pinched me on the cheeks. But I know there's someone you love even more. You told him? I hollered Sasa like I used to when I was little. She was the only one I would always feel comfortable making that face to. So happy I could watch over you, Sasa said. You're taking with me now, but well, I guess there's someone you're still waiting for. I felt my cheeks heating up as I nodded. Sasa frowned but kept a smile on her face. Could be waiting for a while. I know. In fact, the longer I have to wait, the happier I'll be. I felt my ears warming up as well. I kind of wish I still had my hat on so I could hide my embarrassment. Sasa coiled one of my pigtails around her finger. Well, he is a pretty good looker, so I guess he's worth the wait. Might as well admit it while it's just the skulls here. I made the whiny noises if I was still a child. Even now, Sasa teased me like she always did. With her around, I would have been happy to stay as a kid forever. Sasa kissed me on the cheek. Alright then, take care of yourself. Sasa strode off in the same direction as Zulu and Nick. Sad. But after only a few steps, she spun around and went back to the hold me one last time. Mion, my little angel's big and responsible, yet prettier than ever before. One of the greatest pride and joys. Now it's Sasa's turn to weep for the first and last time. I pinched her cheeks back to bring an end to those tears. I'm so lucky to have you. After releasing Embrace, Sasha truly walked on for good. Face reveal. Golden eyes. Guy, did you catch all of those praises? When we meet again, you'd better come up with something more impressive. Otherwise, I might go running after Sasha instead. But really, I was the lucky one, not Guy. I'd thrown more fruits in him than I could count, and he never once retaliated. Thanks to my cursed sight, I knew how much it hurt to be ignored. Time and time again, I had subjected him to the same treatment. Too many things to apologize for. Sasha told me how much Guy begged the king to let me attend the Lantern Festival. Being around so many strangers in the night really frightened me. But having Guy around made it tolerable. Thanking back, never got to say thank you. I remember the surprised Guy looked when I took him with me into the forest for the first time. Took everything I had to resist from pinching his silly face. Of course I would never leave him behind. Without him, I would have been too terrified to ever escape. Right after I told Guy I would sacrifice myself, he proposed to me as if he had not heard a word. Said, the word is said. I wondered if you ever regretted making the choice. Nope. The only thing you probably is regret that you're gone, but that's about it. Even now, he showed no interest in any of the girls who came his way. Did not tell him to find him someone else after I left. Once he found a reason to take off his ring, I would gladly remove mine as well. At this rate, the day might never come. Oh Guy, I'd lied to you even on my dying breaths. Of course I wanted you to belong to me, even in death. I succumbed to such a selfish thought. Perhaps I did deserve to be called a monster, with or without my cursed sight. Let me keep watching over you, Guy, and then, when you arrive here at last, I will tell you everything. And that's how we unlock the final ending, the true ending. Thank you for reading. The end. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the series. We finished Cursed Sight. It took me a little bit longer than I thought, but we got all the pictures unlocked, obviously, because we played through the whole game. There's some character concept up on the end here. And thank you for that one, yeah. About to say, because this was the last picture, but I guess this makes more sense. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next series. Until then, have a great one. Leave a like, leave a comment, and bye bye.